very happy to be hosting Dr. Emre Uğur from the Department of Computer Engineering today, and he'll be delivering his talk titled Cognitive and Developmental Robot Learning. He'll have approximately 35-40 minutes for his talk, which will be followed by a Q&A session. So the floor is yours, Emre. Thank you for that.
You are muted, Emre hocam.
You're muted at the moment.
Okay, so again, thanks a lot for inviting me to the seminar. Can you see the slides now? Okay, good. So for 35-40 minutes. So this talk will be a bit from everything. So you know, there are talks where we give a lot of details on a particular topic. So now what I want to do is I would like to present the research that we do in our department and in my group first, and then talk about AI as I wrote in the abstract. So what today's AI mean, and then I will talk about more particular robot learning studies that I've been doing. So shortly, okay, I started in Boğaziçi University 6 years ago, and before that I was in Austria and Japan for in total 7 years, and I graduated from Middle East Technical University Computer Engineering Department, got my PhD there. Okay, and now at the moment I am the chair of Cognitive Science program. Okay. So I lead a group named Cognition, Robotics and Learning Colors Lab. So where we try to do research in intersection of these disciplines. So this is a photograph from like 2 years. I think it's 2 years old. Still, we cannot. Not all the lab members come to the lab simultaneously. But let me show you. Okay, so this is the. So today I'm going to present most of. I mean, the stuff that I'm going to present are completed by these lab members. The ones on the left now are doing their PhDs in different institutes, and on the right, the current students. Yeah, actually, some of these students left. Actually, in the last 1 year, I think the size of my group shrink to half. So we are losing a lot of students, and not many students, good students, are starting the program. Anyways, so in my lab, we do research in 3 different tracks, let's say. One of them is related to more cognitive science. So we do collaboration mostly with psychologists in psychology department. I will briefly mention that. And then we do some, let's call it hardcore manipulation, robotic manipulation and learning that I will also mention, and then I'm going to show you some videos. And so the topic that I'm most interested in is cognitive robotics. How to achieve high-level cognitive capabilities in robots, not just on sensory motor, but higher level. Okay, let me start. So in this, in cognitive science track, as I told you, so these studies mostly involve faculty members from cognitive science program and students from cognitive science program. And there we work on topics like embodied perception, tool use, representation of tool use, and the body. For example, how body representation in our brain might be affecting the perception capabilities. And we also are interested in modeling other stuff like how time perception happens, and then how humans might be segmenting the ongoing perceptual input into events. So what we do is we do human experiments. We ask humans to, for example, segment the ongoing perceptual information into events, and then we create computational models with standard neural networks, and we compare how they perform, how closely they match, and stuff like that. So on the right, for example, you see that this is from Tuğçe Joy. She was cognitive science MA student. What we did was, so humans, we perceive action possibilities, which is called affordances. It's a concept from ecological psychology. And people did a lot of research on this perception, like we can perceive, let's say, sittable surfaces or pastorable apertures or graspable objects very quickly, even before recognizing those objects or those environments. So there is these two visual pathways in the brain, and then the one that goes directly to action is related to that action possibility recognition or perception, and that's kind of course, that is related, but that is kind of, that happens independent, not exactly independent, but in parallel with object recognition. Yeah, anyways, so what we did in this interesting research was we tried to change the body of humans. But changing body of humans means that changing action possibilities, but of course we cannot directly change bodies. So what we did, we changed the bodies inside virtual reality environments. And after the subjects get used to their new bodies, then we evaluated, we check out how their perception changed. So let me show you a video from this. Okay, so we have in this virtual reality environment, there's a headset through which the person can immerse into this virtual environment, and there's a hand tracker through which we can track the fingers. And so we give different tasks to people, like touching task and grasping task and reaching task. So this is the normal condition. Then in order to change the body, what we did, we replaced the hand with the capsule, and then this person get used to his new body. Here you are going to see now he has a capsule, so she will not be able to grasp the objects with this capsule, and then we check out how the perception changed. Okay, we started this studies this virtual reality experiments. Then we met with Engin, mostly in Güney Meydan, right? And we started a new lab with Incayhan from psychology, and actually this project is led by Engin Ader. And now we have a virtual reality lab in the Kuzey Park, and many students are very interested in this kind of research. So we just started, but I'm very happy about this collaboration and the potential and the future. Okay. So the other track is what is predictive robotic manipulation. So you know that now the robots are becoming more available with all these new improved capabilities in our daily life. And of course, industry would like to use these robots. So in order the industry to use these robots, like in the factories or in service, so the robots need to have very robust, high-performing manipulation capabilities. And there is a special research going on for this because manipulation is very difficult. It is not solved in robotics. So we just after I started in Boğaziçi, we received a funding from European Union. So I was part of this project. In this project, so this project is related to recycling of electromechanical appliances. In Europe, there are companies, recycling companies, who disassemble, where the workers disassemble this kind of objects in order to extract harmful or high-valued materials from inside. And this is a very challenging task because it's very difficult to perceive, to understand, to make reasoning, and then to act on this kind of very complex objects. Okay, so my group did the learning part and the learning to manipulate, learning to disassemble using different tools. And of course, it is not possible to have similar performance. So this is a research project actually, but a research project with some possible outcomes. So there is this technological readiness levels. So this was, we promised TRL 5 in this project. So I'm going to just show you some videos. So what can be, actually, maybe I need to make a pause here and then tell. So initially people were trying to program robot movements in order to achieve this kind of tasks. But very quickly they noticed that it is not possible to manually program, engineer the actions because of the diversity and variance. So it is not possible to imagine, enumerate all different cases and then write down static fixed programs to achieve these tasks. So imagine that the robot gets a hard drive in this case, and maybe it is damaged, so it needs to do something else. So there will be always different hard drives, and there will be always different kinds of problems. It's not possible to manually program everything. That is why we need to program robots to learn these tasks. And these tasks are very difficult tasks. So in the next part, I'm going to talk about simpler tasks. But in this case, so these tasks require very fine, precise motions. And the robot cannot learn by itself. Therefore, what we do in general is we create machine learning algorithms or programs that can be used to first observe, for example, how humans disassemble these objects or make actions, and then transfer this skill from human to the robot through these learning algorithms. So people who are not familiar with machine learning may get confused. What we do is we write the machine learning algorithms, and then those machine learning algorithms get input from, for example, humans, observe so the actions of the humans and the objects, the different properties of the objects, and then transfer these motions to the robots. But of course, humans and robots, they have different embodiments, they have different sensors, and then therefore that transfer is not that easy. First, and second, so we can give different type of expert demonstrations to be learned from, but we cannot cover all the range because the range is infinite. Therefore, these machine learning systems should be able to learn such that given novel situations, novel objects, novel parts, sometimes novel tasks, they should be able to generalize what is learned to novel situations. So that is the big question in machine learning in general and in these robotic experiments as well. So what we do here is what you are going to see, you will see different learning tasks, and then you are going to see what the robot learns from these different learning tasks and execution of this robot. And in this particular project, so we were responsible from imagination so the name of the project is Imagine, using machine learning techniques. That there was another group in France who was doing imagination through physics-based simulations. Okay, let me just skip because these are, yeah, one task, for example. So this is not exactly related to this assembly, but what the robot needs to do is the robot needs to avoid the obstacles. They need to learn how to avoid the obstacles in order to perform a task. For example, let's say that the robot is going to reach to this point in order to do something, and there might be different obstacles which are dynamic as well. And here, what the robot input that is shown on the top left is actually very difficult from raw image. That was one of the tasks. The other task is, for example, using tools. And then, so the robot in this case is given different capabilities. For example, pick and place, you are going to see on the left, and then pull an object on the left again, bottom. And it is going to combine these capabilities for a novel task, which corresponds to pull an object and then pick it and place it on the bin. And this is out of the box. Yeah. So, for example, this is given to the robot. The robot learns how to pick and place an object in the simulator, and then the robot also learns how to pull an object again in the simulator. So of course the robot also can learn the novel combination from a demonstration, but out of the box we give not the situation on the left, not the situation, I mean, on the left top and bottom. We give a completely novel situation, and then we give the goal of putting this object into the basket, and then it can combine these two primitives, as you see. Okay, what else? So in our lab, we have several robots. This is one of those robots, and with this robot, we would like the robot to learn pick and place task again, but now the environment is a bit cluttered, not too much cluttered, but there are objects with different heights. The robot needs to grasp objects with different sizes. And then after learning, for example, here you are going to see that, okay, I cannot pause for some reason. Can I pause like this? Okay, no, I cannot pause. So what you see is when in some cases, the robot can successfully achieve the task because the environment that it sees, the object height and the wall height, it is within the training range that it learned from. However, when the environment contains some objects that are outside the training range, then it needs to make extrapolation, generalization, and then it starts failing in this generalization. So this extrapolation and generalization is always, they are always recurring topics in machine learning. And so that is, I'm going to discuss a little bit when I talk about AI, but that is something that differentiates us from this kind of machine learners. Okay, there are different tasks. I will skip this. Why is it full screen? I don't know. Okay. So I told you that you can see this PCB hard drive, right? Can you see it, Engin? Okay. So I told you that the robots should have the ability to imagine the consequences of their actions as we do. For example, if you would like to execute an action, then you can imagine it in your head, right? So you can even visually imagine what's going to happen with your actions. So that is what we try to do, because if we can imagine, not we, but if the robots learn how to imagine the consequences of their actions, given their action parameters, then they can select which actions to execute in order to achieve their goals. And if they can imagine, again, if they know what's going to happen in order to successfully accomplish a task, when they execute, and if they detect that there is something wrong with the actual execution and imagined execution, then they can change their actions. So this is another example from such imagination. So there is this PCBs. PCBs have different, so that's a hard drive with a PCB, and then PCBs might be placed in different locations inside different hard drives. And here you see the actual execution and the imagined one. The imagined one is, I think, the green one, and the actual execution is the observation is shown with the movement of the PCB. And here, again, from the perspective of machine learning, this is not very easy task, because there are multiple objects, and the objects might have different properties, and then there are different dynamics. So with the contact, the object is first pushed and then start being rotated. So these are actually hard tasks that we deal with. Or what we do, so that's something interesting. So what we do is we try to transfer skills in between robots with different embodiments. On the left, you see a robot with 3 degrees of freedom. We call 3 degrees of freedom. It has 3 joints, 3 controllable joints. And on the right, you see a robot with 4 joints. So we try to understand if we can transfer directly what is learned with the robot on the left to the robot on the right. If we can learn that, so that is also a very important problem. When I told you about these robots and transfer from humans to robots, so that is that was the most difficult point. So humans and robots, they have different embodiments. So what is learned, what is observed in humans cannot be directly transferred to the robots. But of course, that's an ongoing research. So if we have strong, robust methods for this that enable this transfer, then we can achieve it better. Okay. Is there was supposed to be a movie, but no. Okay. Finally, maybe this would be more interesting to you. And then that is also that from the title, Developmental and Cognitive Robotics. Okay, so we are in the age of AI, right? Now AI is becoming our part of our life. Now we are witnessing like autonomous cars, and then systems in your mobile phones that can detect faces of your friends, suggest, and then you may use, for example, Google Translator in order to translate from one language to the other one. So AI is everywhere. And I tried to put here the state of the art, but state of the art changed just 2 days ago. I also included those slides as well. So these AI systems, okay. If you have further questions, we can talk about them, but so I will just briefly introduce. So these artificial neural networks that are inspired from neurons in the brain. So they have been used in order to learn something for decades. But in the last 10, 15 years, with some advances in the underlying hardware and with the amount of available data, so this artificial deep, or let's say deep neural networks based AI systems, the performance of these systems became incredibly amazing. So on the right, for example, top right, these systems are able to annotate given images. So if we give, there are many different examples. Of course, this research field is booming at the moment with all these big companies involved. And big companies are involved in this research, so it is almost impossible to do research for us, like small university laboratories, or let's say that cope with them. So let's have a look to this example. So you give this image, and then it can annotate automatically, give this annotation. Construction worker in orange safety vest is working on road. Or you give, so after learning from a lot of data, a lot of, let's say, pictures and photos, paintings, so you give a photo to the system. So this is another system. All these systems are independent of each other. And that is, I think, the most important limitation. So you give this photo and you ask the system to create Monet version, Monet painting version, and it can create from this or opposite one. Or have a look to this. So its name is GPT-3. It's like a chatbot. So question answer system, which can do where it looks some common sense reasoning is going on. Question is asked by us and answer is given by the system. And you can ask this kind of questions. How many legs does a frog have? A frog has 4 legs. And we ask, are there any animals with 3 legs? No, there are no animals with 3 legs. Why? And so it looks incredible, you know, compared to the state of the art 10 years ago. And many people think that this AI with more data and with more processing power is going to happen like in the science fiction movies or books, which I do not agree. So let me show another robot. In this case, a robot. This robot, it is Atlas. It is from a company named, what was the name of the company? I forgot. Anyways, 5 years ago, when I was making presentations, I was telling that there is no robot that can perform sensor motor or cognitive skills like a 3-year-old child. So that is what I was telling. And this robot, that is the only robot actually, and many people don't know how they perform, because it's a company, they do not provide their algorithms, so we do not know exactly how they program it. But now that there is these robots that can walk as good as us. Yeah, probably you know this, but let me show the video. And it is a bit scary. Yeah, maybe you have seen them before. Yeah, actually, this is not, to me, this is not extremely impressive. What is extremely impressive is what is shown here. So here you see this biped robot, you know, and it is walking on a terrain, and terrain is completely almost unobservable, because what is going on, so the exact terrain behind this snow the robot cannot observe before stepping on. Still, so there is a joystick. It is controlled by the joystick at the moment, so it is given a direction. But the robot can traverse, can walk on this terrain with incredible good performance. So, in summary, there is incredible progress in AI systems and even in robots, sensor motor, let's call it embodied AI as well. But is this real? The big question, I guess, is this really intelligence? So when we talk about intelligence, so this is another I'd like to show you. They released this 2 days ago. So what you can do, so there is this DAL-E system. What you can do with this system is you can write down a sentence and it creates a picture that depicts this sentence. For example, if you write down a robot hand drawing, then this AI system is going to create this image to you, or a rabbit detector sitting. So there is, let me show you another example, a shipping container with, so I think that was a challenge. A shipping container with solar on top, blah, blah. The self-driving shipping container is driving under the Gold Gate Bridge during, so, and the AI system is able to create this image. Again, so it is beyond imagination, you know, compared to 5 years, 10 years, or maybe even 2 years ago. But these systems, in order to train these systems, so they learn from, what they learn from? They learn from images and their annotations, okay? And millions, maybe billions, I don't know, billion such images are collected from internet, and then very big neural networks are trained using these data sets, and these big when I say big, it is really huge. They require powers that can be obtained from, I don't know, some plants. So the powers that are required to light up a mid-sized city. So they are extremely power hungry, but the results are incredible. But is this real intelligence? So what we understand when we talk about real intelligence, or the intelligence general AI, is something like this, right? So we need robots, we need these embodied systems that are general purpose. So the systems that I have shown you up to now, all these learned systems, they can do only one job, one job only. So one of them can make a translation, the other one can make something else, I don't know, image annotation, the other one can walk. But so what if I ask you, what is the number of tasks that humans can do? What is the number of skills? It is unlimited, right? It is infinite. On one hand, now we have so-called AI systems that are completely independent of each other and that can achieve only one task in incredibly good performance. On the other hand, we have human intelligence, where the complete system can do infinite number of tasks. And this gap still exists, even though those systems, those AI systems, work perfectly. And there is, I don't know any method that can bridge this gap. And people, like, for example, IBM people, IBM has a big AI department. When they talk about this, what they say is narrow AI, they call it narrow AI, is becoming more part of human life, yes. But when we talk about artificial general intelligence, which is intelligence similar to us, maybe, we don't know. They say maybe after 2050 or 2060, because we have no idea how to achieve that actually. So these systems, this system, you can see it as a kind of function, a function that takes an input sentence and outputs an image. Is it really intelligent? Yeah, I don't know. I'm still not convinced. So it is just learning from incredible amount of input-output data, such that given a new input, it can produce a good output. Okay, 35 minutes passed. I will use 5 more minutes if you allow. So what I do, since long time, since my PhD times, so I am very interested in human cognition and human learning. And I have seen Deniz Hoca. I'm not sure if she's still there. So if I make a mistake, I'm sorry. So what William James told long time ago is valid for robots. So he said that the baby assailed by eyes, ears, nose, skin, blah, blah, feels all as one great blooming, buzzing confusion. So that's correct for robots as well, right? So the robots has their own sensors. They might have many different sensors. So, and if you do not give directly some meaning to those what is sensed, then it's like a baby. And Alan Turing, a long time ago, suggested that, so instead of trying to produce a program to simulate the adult mind, which means that instead of trying to create an artificial intelligence at once, why not rather try to produce one which simulates the child's? So trying to understand how child learns and apply the same principles to the robots such that the robots will learn like children. So that is the field I work on. Now I work on other things as well. So I think it makes sense to imagine robots like this. And then the children have different learning targets, probably in different ages. And then the exploration of the children is driven by different motivations, like intrinsic motivation, some intrinsic motivation, like they are attracted to surprising events. They would like to maximize their learning progress. Novelty is important for them and things like that. So we would like to use this kind of principles in order the robots to learn different skills in different stages. Yeah, for example, the environment, the child faces here on the left. Here, the child is probably learning object affordances, which means that perceiving the action possibilities of the objects and also learning what kind of consequences can be obtained by different actions. So we don't have mobility is a bit difficult. So what we have is we have this hand and arm robots. So this is my work from Japan. We had the corresponding hardware as well. So we try to create simplified but similar environments where the robot tries to learn these action possibilities, which objects are graspable, which objects are rollable, what happens a box when the robot pushes it, through self-exploration. And I think self-exploration is very important. So in the beginning, in the mid, I talked about learning from demonstration, learning skills from experts. Now I start talking about self-learning. The robot is not given any reward, anything, but the reward of the robot is just maximizing learning. I think maybe I will skip this. But what we have, so this is the robot with 5 fingers and a touch sensor, and then through like babbling in the children, it learns first a number of behavior primitives like grasping, reaching, releasing, but nobody tells anything to the robot. So the robot just self-explores and self-organizes its motor space in order to learn this kind of skills. Okay, I will skip these slides so you don't need to pause. Okay. Then the robot is given, after learning these behavior primitives, the robot is given different objects, and it learns what happens to those objects when it applies those behavior primitives. And it learns this kind of stuff. Some objects are rollable, graspable. When you push rollable object, then it falls from the table and things like that. Then it can do planning, because it can make prediction, and it can chain those predictions in order to find what is going to happen with multiple actions, and it can try to achieve some goals. In this case, for example, I ask the robot to bring the object to here, and then it makes a plan like this. So as you see, how we start from motor babbling, like in babies, and then the babies or our robots learn a number of behavior primitives. Then it learned prediction capabilities, what's going to happen to the objects with those behavior primitives. And now it can make some plans by chaining. And no human intervention was involved. There was no teacher. Then, of course, so maybe after 12 months old, the more parental learning is involved. So then also children after some age, I think, again, if Deniz Hoca is there, she will correct me, that they are shown more complex skills, but sometimes those skills are directly shown. Sometimes some cues are given. For example, I will show the next video, I think, because I don't have time left. So this is an experiment of a colleague from Osaka University. In this experiment, the subject is asked to teach cup stacking task to a human on one side and to an infant on the other side. And have a look how the showing strategy changes between these two different cases or conditions. So on the left, you see that this, let's say, parent or teacher is putting out of inserting pauses, exaggerates motions, shows important sub-goals and stuff like that. For example, we observe this and then we try. So this is just natural, because this let's say teacher teaches the skill with characteristics that can be understood by the infant, because humans are more complex. I mean, infants have simpler capabilities, so the teaching is simpler as well. So in our work, we also try to incorporate this kind of mechanisms, and then so we create similar environments, not exactly the same, and then we have some naive subjects who try to show some skills to the robot, but of course this human subject, does not know how the robot perceives, how the robot's capabilities were developed, and so this is the task that needs to be imitated by the robot, but because the robot cannot understand it well, so slowly the human subject understands better and better how the robot understands, and then starts showing these exaggerated action and pauses and things like that. And at the end, it's able to show it is able to make the robot imitate the subject, because now it's showing this skill such that the robot can understand. Okay. So now I will stop. Thanks.
Thank you, Emre, for that, for this inspiring talk, showing us a bit of lots of different kinds of projects you've been involved in, you've been working on, and the underlying mechanism. So we have about 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so that we can use for questions and discussion. Any questions, reactions to this talk? So Deniz Hoca, Emre was referring a lot.
Yeah, so
go ahead,
no, Emre, you did a great job in explaining. The only thing is that I think the biggest difference is that with the babies, we have intrinsic motivations to learn, right? I think that's like the biggest difference between teaching a robot versus teaching a baby. But I think you made a nice analogies between babies and how, like, I like the use of motion ease, like in explaining. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. I learned a lot as well.
Okay, thank you. So actually, what we try to do is, I showed different examples where the robot was exploring different objects. And so how we start, we give random objects to the robot, and the robot was randomly exploring those objects. But of course, in infants, it is not random. So they use intrinsic motivation. So what we generally try to use is learning progress. So we program the robot such that, maybe the babies are programmed like that through evolution, I don't know, such that the robot, let's say that it learns different behaviors, let's say push, grasp, something else. And then each of these behaviors, while learning, it keeps the learning progress, how fast it's learning. And then instead of selecting the actions and objects randomly, we make the robot select those in order to maximize the learning progress, which means, I think that, so the robot focuses to the skills that are not very difficult, that are not very easy, but in mid level of difficulty. So that is actually what we are very much interested in as well, but it is very difficult. There are many different intrinsic motivations, right? And maybe babies use different intrinsic motivation and for different tasks in different stages. I don't know. So sometimes novelty is very attractive. Sometimes maybe they need to excel in their skills.
Yeah, I think it's like what you said, is like the mid-level difficulty is what most psychologists suggest. It's like babies try to focus on that, but of course there are many other social motivations in babies too. But I think it's the same thing with the babies. They like some challenge, but they don't want the ones that are too difficult or too easy. It's like the optimal level of learning is when they are focusing on mid-level, what they can do a little, but I think then they are very similar. It's interesting to see the similarities and there too.
Maybe another dimension which has similarities with that. Emre mentioned the novelty effect, but also babies seem to enjoy the repetition and the comfort of expecting what to come to some extent. So there's another, like there are lots of extremes that they're playing within in different dimensions.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Exactly, and I think that is very exciting line of research and very difficult line of research, yeah, for roboticists as well. So, because what we would like is, we don't want to program which motivation to focus next. We would like somehow the robots to learn themselves which one to focus. That it's very difficult. Again, maybe it is evolution in our case, and the difficult learning tasks.
Great job. Thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you.
So maybe I can throw in a quick question, and I just wondered, now you're involved in lots of networks with people who are working with robots and robot learning. And as someone from the School of Education, Faculty of Education, I'm wondering what are the main contact points that we could maybe get inspired by the kind of work you do, in how these could be integrated into the educational research, learning research in schools, that in more formal educational settings. I don't know, maybe you are aware of some people who are collaborating with educators and people who are working in maybe schools. I just wanted to hear a quick reaction on that.
Yeah, so that is a question that I don't have a specific answer actually. But what I know is, so those people who probably work on in collaboration with education, people from education would be working on the so-called the subfield, which is called human-robot interaction, because there will be interaction. So in my studies, for example, you saw very little human-robot interaction. The robot was learning from something or by itself, but there is a lot of research going on in this human-robot interaction field. And in terms of education, so I know projects and I know studies where the robots are used in, so I'm not sure if it is in education settings, but I think it is in education settings for people with autism disorder spectrum. Because so it is I think, so again, this is not my research. There are researchers in Istanbul Technical University who work on this topic. For example, Hatice Hoca, graduate from Boğaziçi University, because it is difficult to make these children focus to reaching targets, right, while teaching. And then when there are embodied systems like robots, then they get their attention better. And then what they do is they work on programming these robots in order to somehow maximize the comfort and the focus of these children with ASD. So this is the only work I know, only research, not only in Turkey, but in Europe as well, where robots are tried to be employed. But otherwise, I mean, in other education settings, maybe we need to check out together.
Thank you. Looking out to see whether there are any other questions or reactions after your talk. Okay, so I mean, if there are no other contributions, but this was probably a very dense presentation with a lot of ideas, stimulating ideas for people to maybe quite a few of us are new to these. Okay, if this is the last opportunity for you to pose a question or throw in a comment. If not, I think we can thank you once again, Emre, for this talk, and hope to see you all in the fifth talk of the semester in May. So have a great weekend and rest of Friday.
Thank you. Goodbye.